not so much happier news.
No, I mean, at least the uniforms look nice on the Salute to the Negro Leagues game. But, we'll get to that in a second here. We're going into straight for the game recap. The 3-game series against the Minnesota Twins in the middle of this 11-game homestand was not any better than the Red Sox one. June 13th versus the Twins was a 3-2 loss. Player of the game, center fielder that game, Taylor Trammell, Julio Rodriguez got the day off, going 1 hit, 1 run, 2 RBIs, and a 2-run homer in that game. June 14th versus the Twins, a 5-0 win. So, hey, come back, bounce back, shut the Twins out, put up 5 runs. That's a solid effort on its own. Player of the game, third baseman, Eugenio Suarez, going 1 for 4 with a run and 2 RBIs. On the 15th, looking to wrap that up in a matinee game on a Wednesday, they flip the script and they lose that game 5-0. So you take that game before score and you lose by that score. Not fun. So as you know, with shutouts, unless there's a good pitching performance, no player of the game there can't really justify that. So what do we talk about all the time with these games is winning series, right? You don't do that here. You had that first game, which was close. You lose by a run. It's brutal. Right. You come back and bounce back in the second game. Oh, solid. Then this is, we'll get to the Angels series here in a second, but it's like there's a pattern where, in the series that they'll lose, you'll either take game 1 or game 2, and the rest of them they'll play tight, and then you just falter. And you can't do that, And I'll get to my rant here in a second about this, but we have to look at the Angels series now to close out this homestand. June 16th, starting off with the Angels here, a 4-1 loss. Player of the game, shortstop JP Crawford. JP going 1 for 4 with an RBI, driving in the Mariners' only run of the day. June 17th versus the Angels, an 8-1 win. So like I said, use that first game, win the second one in a big deal, right? 2 players of the game here because of their respective performances. First baseman Ty France goes 2 for 4 with a run and 3 RBIs with a loaded bases clearing double. And then player of the game number 2, pitcher Robbie Ray. Ray going 7 innings, allowing only 3 hits, 1 run, 1 earned run, 1 walk, and 10 strikeouts. So Robbie, for a bit, was flirting with a no-hitter, And at the end of the day, giving up 1 run, that's a winnable game.
Yeah.
So putting up the 8 runs was, in effect, an overkill. So nice for them to, as Bel would mention last week, nice for them to win on my birthday. I guess that was a courteous thing. So we look at that, right? Lose game 1, bounce back in game 2. Obviously, this is a 5-game series, so it's a little different. But we head into the doubleheader day. The first game of the day on the 18th versus the Angels, it was the Seattle Steelheads versus the Anaheim Angels. And if you are not aware, the Seattle Steelheads were Seattle's respective Negro League team back in the day. They weren't around for, I guess, a long time, but the history behind that, and it's just obvious. I mean, they talked about, I believe, pregame on Sunday, just the importance to have the uniforms, have them out there. And as JP Crawford mentioned, the players want to have that uniform in the rotation.
Do they?
I think, we'll put it up here with our photo by Liv Lion, one of our photos from Liv Lions, one of the photographers that we work with. It's just a nice off-white color.
Clean.
It's nice, clean, and simple. At least for me personally, I think, well, one, I know fans already like it. And it's the players really like it. I know that Service talked about how they really felt a good sense of pride being able to honor it. And I feel like being able to include these uniforms in the rotation, the standard rotation, right, would really be a lot more impactful than just wearing them one day a year, if that makes any sense, right? Because, there's so much importance to it. And, if you really want to honor the history behind them, I think wearing them for more than one game a season, which is cool, but making that a consistent effort would be, I feel like it would be more impactful. So that's my thought on that. But the first game of the doubleheader would be a 4-2 loss, a tough one there. The game goes into 10 innings. Mike Trout, the Mariners boogeyman, hits a 2-run homer to effectively close that out. Player of the game, left fielder / right fielder, Dylan Moore, converting from left to right field later in the game, going 1 for 3 with 2 runs and an RBI. I believe he had a solo shot that day. in that game. So they lose with game one of the doubleheader that goes into extra innings. They play a few hours later in game two of that doubleheader, looking to bounce back, rebound, salvage it, right, and then even up the series effectively. And you lose that one 3-0, as we mentioned. Shutouts, no players of the game there. So before we go to the final game of the series on the homestand here, you were at the doubleheader? What did you see in both of those games, just as a whole? Whether it be, I mean, obviously, if you'd like to reflect, on the Steelheads, what they had going on there with, I know they had the scoreboard and stuff in between the innings, but just as well as the games.
Yeah, so they did make it a point to just describe the significance of Juneteenth and people that have made a difference in the Negro Leagues. Jackie Robinson was on the screen at one point. So just yeah, they did such a good job of making it feel like they really were representing something that has made a difference to the league. And in terms of the way they played, I would continue to say, just like you've said before, that they can't continue to leave players on base. They left 10 players on base in that first game. And then I believe that in the second game, they left another 8 on base. Jen Mueller tweeted about it and said that we have, throughout the whole season so far, 495 runners have been left on base, and that's 495 missed opportunities. So that, just like you said, cannot continue to happen.
Before I express my feelings on it, we'll look at the June 19th game versus the Angels. To wrap up the 11-game homestand, 11 games in 10 days, and the final game of the Angels series, a 4-0 loss again. So I'll put it to you this way. In the offseason, it was greatly marketed that there's a lot of excitement, right? I don't think that's an understatement. Coming off of the run that the team had gone on last year, September, early October, late August, right? There was a lot of excitement. A lot of guys were really pushing it together, had some luck involved. With a run like that, there's going to be some luck involved. And for a period of time, you controlled your own destiny, right? You had guys like Jesse Winker, who had a career year last year. Eugenio Suarez is a guy that can bring you some slugging. Adam Frazier was an all-star last season and had been a pretty solid contact hitter. Robbie Ray wins AL Cy Young last year in Toronto. Ken Giles is supposed to come back. He had been a bona fide closer. All of these guys are supposed to be guys you're expecting. The issue was you're betting on these guys to repeat career years, or that they're going to maintain their performances from last year. The bullpen last year played out of their minds. Several guys had career years: Paul Sewald, Drew Steckenrider, Casey Sadler, Eric Swanson. Granted, some of those guys are still performing at that level, and good for them. But you cannot rely on bets to make your way through a successful run to the playoffs, right? And I said it leading into the season. You needed a 5th starter. And don't get me wrong, I love George Kirby, but you cannot rely on a guy who's never played in AAA to be your 5th starter day in and day out against major league talent. You didn't add another proven, consistent veteran bat to this lineup that struggled and has struggled for a year since Edgar Martinez was taken off as the hitting coach, right? Can't do that. You're maybe hitting slightly better than you did last year, and last year you were bad. So like you were saying, when we've talked about it before, leaving runners in scoring position is a big deal. And I'm going to put that front and center because, like you said, we lead the league and all of baseball in runners left on base, and that can't continue to happen. You can continue to have these one-off games in the series where you put up 8 runs, sure, fine. But you have to win series going forward. And like we were saying before this started, if you want to be playing meaningful games in late August, in September, in October, you need to figure things out. That last homestand, you played a Boston team that was, at the time, I think they've fallen out of it slightly, were in the 3rd and final playoff spot in the American League. The Minnesota Twins, who somehow are at the top of their division. I don't expect that to last, but we'll see about that. They've got some solid players. Byron Buxton is great. Luis Arias, I believe, leads baseball and batting average. The point is, those two are playoff teams at the moment, right? Playoff seeding that you need. And then the third team, the Anaheim Angels, who have gone on a 14-game losing streak, fired Joe Madden. This is the perfect time to pounce on them. They've got a lot of talent in Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani. Jared Walsh is playing good, don't get me wrong. But this is a team that you need to be beating, and you cannot. They just look at the fall they've had, and you lose 4 of 5. something has to change, whether it's accountability from the players to perform better. A lot of guys outside of JP Crawford, Ty France, Julio Rodriguez to an extent have been really inconsistent.
Yeah, so I do want to get your take because on that 13th game against the Twins, which was a loss by just one scoring run, that was Julio's rest day.
Yeah.
Rest day. Mm-hmm. He did come in and did bat for, I believe it was Trammell. So they pulled Trammell, put in Julio, and that was kind of the Hail Mary. It was throw Julio in and see what he can do. Just your thoughts on that, considering that Trammell had a decent game.
That's been an issue since they brought Trammell up, and I'm a Trammell fan. I like Taylor Trammell. It just feels like he's got a really short leash. Like a lot of the times he'll be in games and he'll even get hits. He'll get on base, and then in like the 6th inning plus, they'll put in a guy like Sam Haggerty or Dylan Moore for him. For whatever reason, he goes like 1 for 2. I'm like, that's not. Yeah. So I don't understand that, and that's something I'd have to ask Scott about. But it is interesting to me. I'm not 100% sure what that's about. I understand getting Julio a rest day, like there was one of those games where Ty had a rest day.
Yeah.
And that'll happen over the course of 162 games. That'll happen. But yeah, the Trammell, I'm interested. I'm intrigued by that. But I want to wrap up and say this. I know that they had a team meeting before yesterday's game. Mm-hmm. Doesn't seem like much changed. It seems like just in post-game comments and all that, it seems like the players understand what's going on. They know that there's that sense of urgency now. It's time for you to respond. It is time. There's obviously so much expectation. There's all this stuff about, since this and that. I get it. I was 3 months old the last time they made it. I'm 21 now. All right. This team is supposed to be a different team. There is the talent on this roster. It's just about turning things around, and it's about how you respond now. Mm-hmm. So it won't be next week. We can't come to that conclusion by next week. But I'm hoping by, let's say a month from now, all right, late July, let's come back to this and let's see how that has been reflected on. Because a game like that yesterday should be a turning point. That's what I'm going to say about it. We're going to move on to our players of the week here. Talked about Julio. I went with Julio this week just because, for a guy that I would consider in a slump right now, he had 9 strikeouts over the last 7 days. He led the team in batting average still. And he's a guy that Liv actually mentioned it as someone in the photo. Well, yesterday he had an at-bat where he had a pop fly to right field, but he advanced Justin Upton to third, and he was pumped about that. That kind of energy from a rookie, too. Someone who is actually, I think he's also 21. Yeah. Is something that you want to see in your ball club, in your clubhouse. So Julio continues to be a guy that I'm sure, like you said, got to be a fan favorite, and still is someone that every at-bat I have to pay attention to. Mm-hmm. So you went with Robbie Ray. He's been solid in his last 2 starts. What were the primary factors for you to pick Robbie?
The performance on the 17th game, that almost no-hitter. Brutal almost, because that hit ball actually went right above his glove, I believe, and he almost could have got it. But there was a point where he just kind of looked down on the mound, smiled, and just realized what had happened. And I mean, things happen in the game. So, but it was a really good performance. I mean, he really had them in the game until, of course, Mike Trout decided that game, I believe, right? Or that was the winning game. Yeah. Never mind. Yeah, that was the winning game. So I'm sorry. Yeah. So just a great performance by him. Really had, I feel like, set the tempo for the offense because he did so well.
And that's got to be rewarding as a pitcher to have 8 runs behind you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you were saying, I mean, go out there and maybe be just a little bit disappointed, sure, but you only give up 1 run in any game in baseball. That's going to keep you in the game. There's no excuse for that. So yeah, that was.
Yeah,
I get that totally, absolutely.
Had to go with someone from that performed well in one of our winning games.
Yeah, there you go. So we'll head over to team-related news here. On the 16th, the team avoided arbitration with outfielder Jesse Winker. The sides agreed to a 2-year deal worth $14.5 million. So they extend their former All-Star that they acquired via trade over the past offseason. And then we've got some roster-related moves here. A lot of movement going up and down. On the 17th, the team claimed infielder Drew Ellis off of waivers. They placed outfielder Mitch Haniger on the 60-day injured list, so it doesn't seem like Mitch will be back with us anytime soon. Recalled outfielder Justin Upton from AAA Tacoma and the Rainiers. You can see Upton there in his Steelheads uniform. An option infielder/outfielder Sam Haggerty to AAA Tacoma. On the 18th, the day of the doubleheader, some roster moves were made ahead of those games taking place. They appointed left-handed pitcher Justice Sheffield to the 27th man roster for that doubleheader. With a doubleheader, your roster expands to 27 men, so they had Sheffield on hand for that. Did he pitch? I think he pitched in one of those games. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know if you remember that off the top of your head.
That was such a long day, but I think he might have in the second of the doubleheader, because it felt like they shuffled through them pretty quickly.
It was a bullpen game. So there was that move, as well as selecting left-handed pitcher Tommy Malone from AAA Tacoma, optioning right-handed pitcher Matt Festa to Tacoma, and designating right-handed pitcher Joey Gerber for assignment. On the 20th, some moves were made this morning. Ken Giles, the closer that I talked about earlier, was finally reinstated from the 60-day injured list with a right middle finger sprain. So after going through a setback, Giles will be joining the club. Kevin Padlow, an infielder, was recalled from AAA Tacoma, so he'll join the club in their California road trip. Roenis Elias and Sergio Romo were both designated for assignment. So that kind of sucks. Both of them have great stories. Elias in his third stint with the Mariners, and a guy that's really worked hard to get here, and I don't think he's performed poorly in his time with Seattle. And then Romo, a guy that's a veteran presence, a great clubhouse presence, and just has had some bad luck the last few outings.
And the fans have let him hear it.
Yeah. So tough, but that's the moves that they decided to make. And both of those guys being designated for assignment could be outrighted to Tacoma, so they could still be within the organization when their outrights are finished. In terms of league-related news, I know that we just talked about the Angels, but there's some Shohei Ohtani news. On the 15th, a report stated that Ohtani's future with Anaheim is getting cloudier by the day. And on the 16th, many teams would offer Ohtani a deal at 4 years, $200 million that could set salary standards for American sports. If I'm the Mariners, I know that when he was being courted to come to Major League Baseball, the Mariners were a front runner for Ohtani.
Wow.
So could that be in the realm of possibility? I don't know. But interesting.
Into existence.
Anytime there's a superstar in a league and they just seem unhappy, it's interesting to see how that all shifts out. It could turn into a new contract. It could end up with them being on a different team.
Is he unhappy because of the team's performance?
Yes.
Okay.
He says, I want to go somewhere where I win. And I'm like,
makes sense.
So we'll see how that goes. On the 14th, Golden Tate's trying out baseball. The former Seahawk and longtime NFL receiver joins the Amateur West Coast League, where I believe I actually have my friend Ben Pataxel is playing. So that's kind of interesting. On the 15th, Detroit held a team meeting after a bad loss. The MLB's lowest scoring team, the Tigers, holds a meeting after 3 position players pitched in their 13-0 blowout. So when we talk about team meetings, I put that in there simply because of what's been taking place with our ball club. On the 16th, the Nationals are close to being sold. A price tag of Washington's baseball team is expected to land between $2 and $3 billion. So interesting to see who the takers for that may be. The Mariners' record sits at a 29-39 clip. Yep, that's 10 games under 500. They are 4th in the American League West. They have a California road trip, so we'll see how that goes. Maybe some more sunshine can do them some good. June 21st versus 23rd versus the Oakland Athletics, so going to play down in the Coliseum. 21st and 22nd are 6:40 starts. The 23rd is a matinee game at 12:37. Then to the Angels over in Anaheim on the 24th, 25th, and 26th. The 24th is a 6:38 start, which is very specific. Yeah. And then the 25th is a 7:07. The 26th is a 1:07. What did you have to say?
Anaheim Angels.
Hey, man, they play in Anaheim. They play like a mile away from Disneyland. Where am I? I will die on this hill. They play in Anaheim. All right, that's my